Dear Paper Trail, I've been working at my current company for almost 2 years now and I have not gotten a raise. I've taken on more tasks, even tasks that aren't a part of my job role, and my boss has said I'm doing a great job. I think it's time to ask for a raise, but I'm not sure how to go about asking. What should I say? And do I go to HR or just my boss? Please help me. Susan. Well, Susan, you've come to the right place. If you don't know me, my name is Colin, and this is Paper Trail, a channel dedicated to helping employers and employees navigating difficult situations. Now let's jump right into this. So thanks for reaching out, Susan. I gotta say, this is probably the most common question I ever get asked working with businesses and being in HR and all of that good stuff. Now, before we even talk about how to actually ask for a raise, there's two key points I really want to highlight, and this goes for any employee that wants a raise. Number one, leverage is everything. The more leverage you have over an employer, the more willing they're going to be to give you the raise you're asking for. And what does that really mean? If you're in a position where the employer can't afford to lose you, maybe you know how to do things that nobody else does, or you're kind of a one-man army, the odds are forever in your favor because they can't afford to lose you, so they're willing to do what it takes to keep you, right? However, you also have to understand the risk of using your leverage. If you decide to use your leverage to get a raise, you're going to piss off your employer. If you're in a corporate world, that's how that works, because you have them vice grip by the nuts and they have no choice but to pay you more money that they weren't intending to pay. And that immediately shifts the power dynamic of your relationship with your employer. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but you have to absolutely keep that in mind. If you use your leverage to get a raise, there's a very high chance the employer is going to be on you. It spotlights you and it works against you. They're going to be on you like white on rice, and the moment you mess up, they're going to make sure you hear about it. It's going to be one of those dynamics. So you don't want to go about this situation the wrong way. You want it to be delicate and you want to show your worth and value. And how do you do that? So this is my strategy and it's worked for me at every place I've ever worked. However, you're also asking for a lot when you do it. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail. So the thing is, if you're a top performer and you're doing well and you want a raise, 9 out of 10 times asking for that raise is asking for more work. And so you have to kind of sit there and take a moment to determine whether it's appropriate to ask for more work and if that's something you really want. It's very, very difficult to justify getting a raise for the work you're already doing. And that's just the way of the corporate mindset. Now, if you're working with a decent company, you're probably having regular one-on-one meetings with your boss, right? Or like there's some kind of performance review process on a yearly basis, something like that. If there isn't, well, you're gonna have to ask for a meeting with your boss. Now, what I would recommend doing is sitting down with your boss, outlining your career goals, and kind of explaining how those can apply to your current job, or explaining how you want to grow in your role or how you want to grow in the company. And if you really are a top performer and you're a great employee, they're gonna listen. If you're not, and you're not realizing you're not the best employee, they may entertain it a little bit, but you're not really getting anywhere. And this is why self-awareness really matters in this situation. Now, what I always recommend doing is when you're sitting down with your boss and outlining your goals, you say something along the lines of, my goal is to be this position, earning roughly this much by this time frame, and I want you to help me get there. And the way in which you phrase that does differ. It depends on how professional you want to be, how close you are to your boss, things of that sort. But you're basically saying, hey man, I want to grow here, I want to make more money, but I need you to tell me how to get there. You're my manager, and if I'm not doing what I need to get there, well, it's your job to help me get there. So you're kind of like pulling a reverse psychology card. You're putting a responsibility on your boss to actually be a boss. They have to actually manage you now. They have to look at your performance, they have to determine where you can improve, and they have to essentially help you grow and get to that new job title and that new salary you're asking for. And if you have a good boss, this will be amazing. If you have a decent boss, well, they're probably going to learn along the way, because it's not common that you have an employee kind of holding your ass to the fire to be a good boss. And in doing so, when you're having this conversation, you're also kind of just asking for more work, right? Like, hey, I'm doing well in my current role. I want some more tasks. I want to learn more. I want to grow into a higher level position. That in turn is going to result in more work. And so if you're really looking at it from a general perspective, you're asking for more work. You're asking for your boss to be a boss and help guide you to a promotion. And you're also kind of planting the seed of the amount of money you want to make. And if you do all of those things with your boss, you're in a really good position, especially if you have that leverage. That is going to work infinitely better than going to your boss and saying, well, I've already done X, Y, and Z and I deserve more money. Just the psychology behind that interaction alone, it comes off entitled. Whereas the reverse side of it is, if you say, I have these goals, I'm asking you to help me achieve these goals, you're essentially saying, look, I'm willing to earn this raise. Like, I know it's going to be a long journey, but I'm willing to earn it and I'm already performing well. So let's partner together and help me get to where I want to be. And I will make sure you look great in the process, boss, because I'm going to be a top performer for you. That little flip or switch in power dynamic is literally everything. And I know that sounds so ridiculous, but when you work in corporate America, that's exactly how that works. There are politics, there are power dynamics. It's the way the world works. And a lot of the times, your employer can kind of just shut this down and say no, but don't be agreeable. The reason why people don't get raises is because they're agreeable. In my own experience, I've asked for a raise. They've countered me at a smaller amount, and then I countered the raise. So I countered their counter and I got the raise I wanted. I'm never agreeable because I want what I want. That's why I'm working. I'm not working for them. I'm working to get a check and make sure that I can live my normal day-to-day life the way I want to with the money I want. So let's recap this a bit, right? When you want a raise, you are supposed to phrase it in a way that makes it seem like you are there to help the company and you are there to grow. You never want to ask for a raise with the mindset of I deserve this already, because that's an extremely off-putting situation for an employer. And it's just the cold hard truth. I mean, when they hired you on, they gave you the money they thought you deserved, and then you're asking for more, and if they don't see reasonable results to give you more money, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy. So when you sit down with your manager for a one-on-one, you say, these are my goals. I'm looking to achieve them. Can you please help me achieve them? I'm not asking for it right now. I'm just asking over the next 6 months, maybe a year, to really grow into this higher up role. And I want to earn it. I want to earn your trust. I want to perform well. I want to take on additional tasks. I want you to help me achieve my goals by just giving me that path. Just tell me what I need to do to get there. 9 out of 10 times, your employer is going to be much more appreciative of this approach and they'll work with you. And the thing is, you need to check in for feedback every so many months while doing this process, right? Because if they're partnering together, you need to make sure you're continuously doing a good job. And whether you send emails and get that in writing or have verbal discussions, I mean, I'd always say get it in writing. Our name's Paper Trail for a reason. I encourage transparency and everything in writing on both ends to keep both sides accountable in these situations. But yeah, just get it in writing and have those conversations with your employer and work towards it. You can't ever just come up and say, I deserve this money and I deserve this raise for X, Y, and Z. It's almost never going to work that way. And there's a few things you also need to understand. I mean, there's a very high chance the employer just doesn't have it budgeted and they just can't give you a raise, especially upfront. And you need to be willing to accept that. That is something you have to be agreeable with. If it's just not an option, it's not an option and it's totally out of your hand. Another thing is, if there's a lot of other people in the same job title or position as you, you have to kind of be mindful of that as well. The employer needs to be fair and equitable to everybody, and they have to pay everybody appropriately based on their years of experience and performance. And so if there's better performers than you making less money and you're the one asking for a raise, there's a very high chance your employer is going to shut that down too. And then the last thing is, you need to be self-aware of your performance. Just because you think you're working hard and doing a good job, it doesn't necessarily mean everybody else does. I know that's kind of a tough pill to swallow, but it's something you really need to think about as well. You're not just guaranteed a raise because you think you're doing well. So kind of take a moment to acknowledge your performance and pay attention to the numbers or the metrics or whatever it may be, and like really analyze how you're doing. Like you can't be biased in this situation. And look, the last thing I'll say is for the love of God, don't ever get another offer at another company and then leverage that offer to get a raise. It will never work for you. I'm telling you, if you get a job offer somewhere else, you need to just take that job. If you go to your current employer and say, hey, I got an offer for 40 grand more a year, I want you to match it. Your employer's gonna match it because you vice grip them by the nuts with leverage and they have no other choice. But I'm telling you, they will look to replace you as soon as humanly possible. And they will absolutely spite you for it. They will hate you for it, and they will use it against you. And fast forward 6 months to a year, they're going to try and fire you for something ridiculous. Like, that is the political game. You never accept a counter from your employer ever. If you get a new offer, just take it and run. At the end of the day, your employer deserves that for not appreciating you to begin with. Now, I hope this helps, Susan. If you have follow-up questions, let me know. I'm happy to kind of like draft some talking points and help you really work through that actual conversation. I'm just kind of giving you a paraphrased overview of how to navigate the conversation. But if you're doing as good as you say you are and you have a reasonable boss, I think you're absolutely in a great position to kind of sit down with your boss and map out a path for earning that raise. And I think that that is the best possible approach to doing that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye.